a high-quality knowledge podcast for hitchhikers traveling the galaxy. This is Lab 42.
Deep dive. Today, we're going to look at something that I can almost guarantee is in your house right now. You've probably sat on it, eaten off it, or, let's be honest, cursed at it while holding a little metal hex key at 11 o'clock at night. We're talking about IKEA.
But before you tune out thinking this is just about Swedish meatballs or, affordable bookcases, the research we've got today takes a wildly different angle. It argues that IKEA isn't really a furniture company at all.
Right. I was reading through this stack of notes, and it felt more like we were studying a logistics company that just, accidentally makes chairs. Or maybe a high-level physics lab.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the source material, the physics, the logistics, the material science, they're essentially a company that specializes in the manipulation of space and matter. They are efficient to a degree that is actually kind of unnerving.
Terrifyingly efficient was the phrase that stuck with me. It's like they looked at the physical world and just decided it was too messy. So, to kick this off, the research suggests a thought experiment. I want you to try this. Visualize a classic armchair. Like a wing chair.
Okay. High back, comfy, maybe some nice upholstery.
Big. It's big. Think about the dimensions. It's roughly, 80 centimeters wide, 80 deep, maybe a meter high? Now imagine drawing a box around that chair, the shipping box it would come in if you bought it fully assembled.
I'm picturing a pretty massive crate. Physically, that box takes up about 0.64 cubic meters of space. That's the volume you're paying to ship.
Right. But here's the revelation from the physics analysis in our reading. If you were to take that chair, put it through a wood chipper, grind it all down, and measure just the volume of the actual matter, the wood, the fabric, the foam, do you know how much stuff is actually there?
It's shocking. It is 0.027 cubic meters.
I looked at that number 3 times because I thought it was a typo. That means the chair is what?
It's 96% air, only 4% matter.
96% air. That's wild.
It really frames the problem. When traditional furniture companies ship an armchair, they are essentially shipping air packaged in a skeleton. From a logistics standpoint, it's an economic and environmental disaster. You're burning fuel to move, nitrogen and oxygen mixtures across the ocean.
You're paying to ship the void.
And that is the mission of today's deep dive. We aren't just talking about design aesthetics. We are talking about physics. We're going to look at how IKEA applied principles of phase transitions, crystal lattices, and thermodynamics to basically pop that bubble of air.
It reframes the whole flat pack thing. It's not just, this fits in my hatchback. It's we are deleting the air from the global supply chain.
And we've got some incredible case studies to unpack today. We're going to talk about how sawing the leg off a table changed history, why an ugly coffee mug saved millions of dollars, and this is the part I'm really interested in, why baking a cake explains why you feel that weird sense of pride after assembling a crooked bookshelf.
The IKEA effect. I can't wait for that. But let's start with the origin story. The Big Bang of flat packing. It takes us back to 1956.
Yes, 1956. We're looking at a designer named Gillis Lundgren. He's working on this table called the Livet. It's a beautiful leaf-shaped table, very mid-century modern.
I've seen photos. It's elegant, but the notes say it was a nightmare to move.
It was. So Lundgren is trying to pack this table into the trunk of a Volvo to take it to a photo shoot. And it simply won't fit. The legs are sticking out. They can't close the trunk.
The text calls this the tyranny of form, which I thought was a bit dramatic, but I get it.
It is dramatic, but it's accurate.
Yeah.
The shape of the object was dictating the logistics. Lundgren was frustrated. It's freezing cold. This is Sweden, remember? And finally, he just snaps. He grabs a saw and saws the legs right off the table.
He vandalized his own prototype.
He liberated it. He realized, if I cut the legs off, I can slide them under the tabletop. And in that moment, he didn't just fix a packing problem. He triggered what the physicists in our sources call a phase transition.
Okay, let's unpack that term. Phase transition. In high school physics, that's like ice melting into water or water boiling into steam.
Right. So think about traditional furniture, that fully assembled wing chair, like a gas. Gas molecules are spread out. They take up a huge amount of volume for very little mass. That armchair is a gas. It's huge, low density.
Okay, I follow. It takes up way more room than its mass justifies.
Precisely. What Lundgren did was force a phase transition directly from a gas to a solid. By removing the vertical axis, the height, He turned a 3D object into a quasi-2D object.
Quasi 2D, so like a stack of paper.
Or layers of graphite. Graphite is just carbon atoms arranged in flat sheets. Because they're flat, you can stack them incredibly densely. By making the furniture flat, IKEA allows it to be stacked like a crystal. It's not just packaging, it's dimensional reduction.
That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, dimensional reduction. But makes sense. If you get rid of the up dimension, you can stack infinite layers.
And that lowers the viscosity of the logistics flow. Suddenly, the furniture flows through the supply chain like a liquid instead of getting stuck like a clunky solid. It liberated the air.
So once they figured out they could turn furniture into these flat slabs, that completely changes how they store it. And this leads us to the next big concept, the crystal lattice.
This is where we look down at an IKEA warehouse. If you look at a traditional moving truck, it's just a mess. You have a lamp, a chair, a sofa. It's like a game of Tetris where the pieces don't fit. You have dead space everywhere. Physicists would call this an amorphous state. It's disordered.
It's chaos. I've helped friends move. I know exactly what that dead space looks like. It's just wasted space. It's air you're paying for.
Now look at an IKEA pallet. It's a solid block. Because every box is a rectangular prism, they stack perfectly, no gaps. This is a crystalline state, like a salt crystal.
So they aren't playing Tetris, they're building bricks.
Precisely. They create unit cells that repeat without error. And the source material gave us a fascinating case study on this. Did you read about the Bang mug?
The Bang mug. Yes, this is a specific coffee mug they sell.
Yes, the original design, it had this nice curve to it, very elegant. But when they tried to stack them on a pallet, that curve created void space, air pockets between the mugs.
So even though the mug looked nice, it was logistically expensive. It was carrying air again.
Exactly. So the designers went back to the drawing board. And this is key. They didn't redesign it to be prettier for the user. They redesigned it to fit the pallet. They shortened the height, changed the angle of the handle, and tapered the bottom so they'd nest perfectly.
They reverse engineered the product from the shipping container.
They let the logistics dictate the design, and the numbers are staggering. Originally, they could fit 864 mugs on a pallet. After the redesign,
It was over 2,000.
2024.
Wow, that's more than double.
It's a massive jump.
Yeah.
Shipping costs dropped by 60% instantly, just by tweaking the handle and the taper.
That actually explains a lot about the IKEA aesthetic. It's very blocky, very geometric.
And this leads to a really cool evolutionary theory mentioned in the text. They call it convergent evolution.
Like in biology, how sharks and dolphins look similar even though they aren't related.
Exactly. They look similar because the water forces them to be streamlined. If you aren't streamlined, you can't survive. In the same way, IKEA products are evolving under the pressure of logistics. They're all turning into rectangular boxes because that is the fittest shape for survival in a shipping container.
That is profound. The shipping container is the environment, and the furniture is the organism adapting to it.
It really is. And if you don't adapt, you go extinct, or at least you become too expensive to survive in the mass market.
So we've got the furniture compressed into these 2D crystals. It flows through the world efficiently. But then it hits a wall, the last meter, the customer's living room. And suddenly, that flat pack has to become a chair again.
Right. And this brings us to the most controversial part of the IKEA model, the labor.
The Allen key, the sweat, the arguments with your spouse.
The source text describes the flat pack box in a very interesting way. It says the box isn't furniture. It is a precursor. It's a metastable state.
A precursor, like it has the potential to be a bookshelf, but it's not there yet.
Correct. Physically speaking, a pile of boards has high entropy. It's disordered. A standing bookshelf has low entropy. It's ordered. To go from disorder to order, you have to inject energy.
Thermodynamics 101, you need work.
Traditionally, the factory provides that energy. They assemble it, glue it. IKEA outsources that activation energy to you.
I become the manufacturing plant. I am the battery.
You are the power source. But, and here's where it gets psychological, this isn't just about saving money for IKEA. It changes how you feel about the furniture.
This is where the cake mix comes in, right? The Betty Crocker story. I love this comparison because it seems so unrelated, but it fits perfectly.
It's the economics of friction.
Yeah.
So back in the 1950s, General Mills released a Betty Crocker cake mix. A marvel of engineering. You just added water, powdered eggs were already in there,
Super easy. Frictionless.
and it flopped. Housewives rejected it.
Why? Because it tasted bad.
No, the taste was fine. They rejected it because it was too frictionless. They felt guilty. They felt like they hadn't actually cooked anything. It felt like cheating.
That's fascinating. It was too efficient for its own good.
So General Mills hired a psychologist named Ernest Dichter. And he gave them some counterintuitive advice. Add friction.
Make it harder on purpose.
Exactly. They removed the powdered eggs and put instructions on the box. You must add your own fresh egg.
And that worked.
Sales exploded. Just the act of breaking that egg, whisking it in, that was just enough labor to validate the user as a cook. It gave them ownership.
So the friction creates the value.
This is now known in psychology as the IKEA effect. It was proven by Michael Norton at Harvard. People value things. They build themselves significantly higher than expert-made goods, even if their version is a little wonky.
I definitely feel that. I have a bookshelf in my office that is slightly leaning, but I look at it with this weird pride. I made that.
The text interprets this through that thermodynamics lens. The energy you put in, your frustration, your focus, your sweat, it's conserved. It doesn't disappear. It's stored in the furniture as attachment. The furniture becomes a crystal of your energy.
That is a beautiful way to look at a blister on my thumb, a crystal of my energy. But it makes sense. If I bought it pre-assembled, it's just a commodity. If I build it, it's personal.
It creates a symbiosis. IKEA saves on labor costs, which keeps the price down, and you get the psychological satisfaction of creation. You're happy, they're happy.
So we've covered the packaging, the phase transition, we've covered the assembly, the activation energy. Now I want to look inside the materials. Because the source made a really surprising claim that seemed to contradict everything we started with.
Oh, the air diamond concept.
Yes, we started by saying shipping air is a sin. Air is the enemy. But then the research says IKEA reintroduced air, but this time they put it inside the wood.
That's right. It sounds contradictory, but it's actually genius. Shipping unstructured air is waste, but using air as a construction material? That's brilliant engineering.
Explain that. How do you build with air?
Well, if you cut open an IKEA lac table, you know, the really cheap side tables?
Yeah, I had 3 of them in college. They're indestructible until they aren't.
If you saw one in half, you won't find solid wood. You won't even find particle board all the way through. You'll find a paper structure that looks like a honeycomb.
But beehive.
Exactly. It's biomimicry. Nature loves hexagons. Bees use them. Bird bones use similar structures. Why? Because a hexagon lets you cover a surface with no gaps tessellation, and it disperses vertical load incredibly well.
So it's mostly empty space inside.
It's mostly air, but it's structured air. By using this paper honeycomb, they drastically reduce the mass, and the economics are wild. A prototype using solid particle board cost about 298 krona to make.
Okay.
When they switched to the board-on-frame technique with the honeycomb filling, the price dropped to 78 krona.
From 298 to 78, that's a 74% reduction.
It evaporated the cost. And this brings us back to Isaac Newton. FMA. Force equals mass times acceleration.
Physics flashbacks.
It's simple but critical here. If you reduce the mass m, you reduce the force F needed to move it. Lighter furniture means less fuel for the truck, less strain on the worker, less carbon in the atmosphere.
So lightness isn't just about being cheap, it's about survival.
The text calls it a shift from heavy industry, where weight equals quality, to smart logistics, where lightness equals intelligence.
And that leads to that term air diamonds.
Yes, it's a great metaphor. A diamond is valuable not because carbon is rare, carbon is everywhere. A diamond is valuable because of its structure. IKEA sells air diamonds. You aren't paying for the raw material, you're paying for the intelligent structure that lets paper and air act like wood.
That is such a cool concept. They're selling us structure, not substance.
And that leads to the ultimate conclusion of the source material. This whole system, the flat packs, the DIY, the honeycomb, it's all about physics for democracy.
I know Ingvar Kamprad, the founder, always talked about design for the many.
Right. And in physics terms, to make something accessible to everyone, you have to reduce resistance to zero. Price is resistance. Friction is resistance.
So they systematically popped the bubbles of resistance.
The text summarizes it as popping 3 specific bubbles. First, the volume bubble.
Popped with flat packing. Geometry.
Second, the labor bubble.
Popped with DIY, thermodynamics, and psychology.
And third, the mass bubble.
Popped with honeycomb structures. Material science.
By popping those 3 bubbles, they removed the barriers that kept good design away from regular people. They removed the waste of volume, labor, and mass. And by selling void, by selling the emptiness, they made being, or ownership, possible for the masses.
It's almost philosophical. You buy the empty space so you can fill your life with it?
It is. We aren't just buying furniture. We are buying a highly compressed crystal of efficiency.
That is a powerful place to land. It really changes how I'm going to look at that flat box next time I'm wrestling it into my car. It's not a burden. It's a marvel of dimensional reduction.
Tell yourself that when you can't find the screw. I am providing the activation energy.
I am creating value. I'll try that. Before we go, I want to leave the listeners with a thought. We've seen how IKEA revolutionized furniture by removing the air, the labor, the mass. It makes you wonder, what other industries are currently selling us air?
That is the big question. Where else are we paying for volume bubbles just because, that's how it's always been done?
Is it in construction? Is it in food distribution? What is the next industry that's waiting for its phase transition?
You can spot the air. You can start the revolution.
Something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us today.
A pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
That's all for today's episode of Lab 42. If you enjoyed this story of impossible engineering, leave us a review. Safe travels, hitchhikers. See you in the next galaxy.